welcome into Sports Around the Bar. And Drew, we are at it in the summer heat today, man. It has been a hot one. As we've been trying to film a bunch of stuff, talking about the NFL and keeping things going through the offseason and everything else. Mandatory OTAs are here. Everybody's getting paid out there in L.A. Deshaun Watson having less good of a time, but he already got paid, so I'm sure he's fine. We'll talk about him, everything else, and we'll talk about the cap going on in the NFL. Like, how can the Rams just constantly be throwing money at everybody? We'll talk about all that and more, along with your comments, man. How are you surviving the summer heat, dude?
The real question is can you get a good masseuse down in Houston? I mean, can you find a decent one? I mean, he's gone through so many trying to find that right one.
You know, by the 60th one, I think I would have said, maybe this town just doesn't have any good masseuses. But to him, he never gives up, man. He keeps trying.
Never gives up. He's there for, for the team.
That's one way to beat the summer heat, but we wouldn't know anything about that.
This is how I'm beating the summer heat right here.
I hope wherever you are doing well as we go through this summer swoon of heat wave kind of rolling through everything. Because, man, Drew, I got in the car. I was loading everything up to come over here, and it was a gut check.
Did you break a sweat?
Oh, more than that, dude. I was drenched when I came over here. It was a gut check. It was like, I know it's the offseason. I know there's some things going on. I want to talk football. I just had to prove it today. That's what it was. I'm glad I'm not out there working at OTAs right now, though.
Just had to make it a point. Had to make it a point that you're putting in just as much work as every NFL player. Right
More, honestly. We're suffering worse than they are right now.
You don't have a team to support you. It's just you.
Welcome in, guys. We are going to talk about. Let's start with the Rams and their money, because if you haven't heard, Aaron Donald just got the cheddar over there in L.A. as they gave him a brand new 3-year, $95 million contract that's going to extend everything from his current contract. He's now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Drew, is there a ceiling for this kind of thing? I know we've kind of seen those sort of moves here in the past where guys like Devontae Adams are pushing like the $30 million mark. We've seen Tyreek Hill get close to that $30 million mark. Is there a ceiling you can pay a guy that's not a quarterback, or is this a number that's going to continue to creep up as the offseasons, not just this offseason, but as the NFL kind of marches forward?
No, there's never going to be a true ceiling. I mean, they're going to keep on growing the cap because the money that's being made is improving every year in and year out, minus the COVID year. So, no, there is no true ceiling. I mean, most of these contracts, as you know and everyone else knows, that when you write these contracts, it's really based off of what is going to happen to the intake of profit that the NFL is going to do. You don't write these contracts based off of what it is now. You write them off based off of the year that's forward and the year after that.
And that's the beautiful thing about proration. We're going to talk about that. If you're not a huge Latin scholar, you're not sure what a pro rata share is. A lot of what the NFL teams do is they're able to manipulate their cap by offering signing bonuses up front, which as long as your owner is cash rich and can hand over $50, $60, $70 million in the same year that you sign that contract, you can kick the can down the road for a long time and wait for that salary cap to go up and not make it as big of a deal.
Most of them are. Most of them are.
Not all of them are.
But most of them are. The problem is, do they want to spend that money?
Most of them have more money than we do in our pockets right now, but the question is, do they have that money that they can spend compared to their other peers in the NFL? And there are rich owners, and there are quote-unquote poor owners that, again, they're still billionaires. We're not weeping for them, but might not have that kind of money that you can take 3, 4, 5 guys every season and go and kick that money to them. There's also more going on with those contracts, but first, let's talk about Aaron Donald. First, let's talk about Cooper Kupp, and then we'll talk about the salary cap and the influence it's going to have on the actual league. Is there a guy more worth it in the NFL than Aaron Donald?
Defensively, no.
Offensively, is there?
Yes. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes.
That's not a quarterback, I should say. I'm sorry. That's worth this kind of money and is not a quarterback. So you got to think about this one.
Maybe Derrick Henry, to the fact of how important he is to the Titans.
As much as I want to say you're right, but no. You couldn't give a running back that.
No. But right? No, right? Yeah. I mean, it is a no. It all depends on how important that player is to that organization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you could have Randy Moss right now in his prime in a Titans uniform, how much would you be willing to pay him?
Not as much as John Robinson was willing to pay A.J. Brown, apparently. I don't know. Here in Tennessee, probably like $9 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Take it or leave it.
That's my point.
I agree with you. And here's the thing about Aaron Donald. Again, he's a game wrecker. Everybody knows that. But when it comes to this money, you've now sort of redefined the market for everybody else who doesn't have a guy that wrecks the game like Aaron Donald does when it comes time for them to re-sign the guys. Chris Jones, even guys like Jeffrey Simmons right now in Tennessee are looking around and saying, hey, well, if Aaron got 30, the number always goes up, right?
It does. But there's not
if he got 30, I'm worth 32.
There's not another defensive player in the NFL right now that's better than Aaron Donald.
Correct. But when the contract comes up and you have to re-sign these guys, you've now made it harder as the Rams for all these other teams to re-sign their guy because you've reset the market. And I think that's very interesting when it comes to what they're able to bring to bear, even in free agency going forward. Because if you have a guy that is that much better, like Aaron Donald is that much better at D-tackle than other people, you have now put these other teams in a bind where it's like, I have to re-sign my guy, and he wants that kind of money, but he's not that good.
He's not that good. But also, as players decline, the contract gets less important, or not important, less valid per se, and that's where you get that next player that's going to get to his peak, and he's asking for that much money. That's where that comes from. Frank, man, good to see you. He's asked, what's the good word, fellas? The good word is, guys, like, comment, share, please, on our videos. We have an opportunity to
make some money,
earn some cash through Facebook. And if you guys are on there, please, throw a like button, throw a share, tell your friends about us. Even if they don't like sports, tell them, I can be funny every now and then.
Stuff the ballot box, because every little bit of commenting, liking, sharing, all that stuff goes into some sort of equation from a bonus we're going to get for Facebook here for doing our show, and might actually see us get rewarded a little bit for all the time that we get to spend with you. So every little bit helps us, and we thank you guys so much for your support, and we're going to be leaning on you in the next month going forward for as long as this bonus goes, just to try to make us successful, and we appreciate that.
James, good to see you, man. He goes, and I want to skip Frank's comment, but he goes, how's Watson doing over in Cleveland?
And we always appreciate the share too, Frank. Thank you so much for that.
We don't know. We won't know. There's nothing. Don't get me wrong. Like I think as far as right now, he could be at the OTAs. Mm-hmm. But what are OTAs really? I mean,
you're just working out. You're getting to know everybody.
Yeah. So it's not. When the training camp starts and he's allowed to be at training camp, I think we're going to have a lot more information coming out from Cleveland. As of right now, it's hard to say.
Even more than that, a lot of it, this is the season of misinformation. They're going to tell you everything you want to hear when it comes to if you have any kind of relationship with a team as a reporter, you're not going to go out there and trash the guy that they just gave 3 first-round picks up to go out and get and be like, yeah, he's awful. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Everything you hear is going to be positive in terms of on-field things with Deshaun Watson right now. And it's going to continue to be that way, except for maybe some fringe reporting that maybe they don't have that good of a relationship with the team. Most everybody, though, wants to be invited back. They want those like special access passes and everything else that they can get. And the only way you keep those is by saying, man, Deshaun Watson's great out there, isn't he? The Browns didn't just get snookered out of 3 first-round picks. And I don't think they did. I'm just saying. Whether he's good or whether he isn't, you're going to say he's good if you want that kind of access to continue.
Frank says 68 rubdowns in 17 months. Wow.
66, I think.
I'm just saying, sometimes 65. To find a good masseuse is a really hard struggle, especially down in Houston. Frank said, sadly, Philly is overpaying A.J. Brown, saying it's way too much money. Do you think it's way too much money for a legitimate number one wide receiver? I mean, A.J. Brown, healthy, is a number one receiver.
I'm going to sound like Drew here a little bit when I say the big concern here is his health, because he has been hurt every season he's been in the league, even when he's kind of soldiered through some of those injuries. It's one of those things that now that he's paid, does that drive continue? Does he stay and power through some of those injuries to stay on the field for you and stay? Because if you got A.J. Brown in a vacuum and injuries weren't a thing, we didn't have to worry about that, A.J., I would say 100% he's worth the money. Period. Yeah. If you got him for 25, when you're talking about guys that are 30 years old like Devontae Adams or 28 like Tyreek Hill, you're getting a 25-year-old receiver for that same span for less money that's almost as effective as those guys. Yes, I would say it's worth it. The problem is those guys stay on the field. A.J. Brown's had a little bit of trouble with that, not to mention he's had a couple mental health scares as well on top of it. There's a lot of risk that's going into Philadelphia bringing in A.J. Brown. But these are the risks you got to take when you're talking about bringing in this caliber of a player in. So I'm going to say, as much as the money is, wave that aside and say, we got a good receiver that's going to stack up with Devontae Smith, and that wide receiver room is looking really good these days.
Yeah. Ken says, "Guy, he doesn't think we have enough beer to deal with this heat." He says, "It's way too hot, and it's time for us to get in the pool." Unfortunately, I don't think our equipment will handle water well.
We'll have to try that next. We'll put it on a table or something in there. We'll just do a show from the pool. It'd be nice in this kind of heat. Going back to the Aaron Donald thing, though, really quick. When we talk about the Rams, they paid Cooper Kupp, they paid Aaron Donald, and it was one of those scenarios where everyone said, the Rams are going to run out of money, and I've said it too. One thing they've been able to do is to manufacture some of this money up front, where you give the guy the big payday right when he signs the contract, and you're able to kick some of those cap responsibilities down the road, like you said, when that salary cap is going to jump. Let's not forget, it went from like $185 million all the way up to $200 this season.
Yeah. Guys, again, just want to remind everyone, please like, comment, share. It helps us grow. It helps this community grow. It really means a lot to us if you could absolutely do that. When you pay Aaron Donald that much money, it is a well-deserved contract. I mean, when you talk about that defense, all the pieces moving in and out, Weddle being there, Weddle gone, Jalen Ramsey coming in, playing well, it all starts with him. It all starts with him. I mean, it is a well-deserved contract.
I'm Mr. Bill from the trenches, and is there a better soldier to have in your trenches than Aaron Donald? Of course there isn't. I mean,
no way.
The guy is the most dominant defensive player that you have to change your game plan when he's out there. So, yeah, 100% I agree with that. Couldn't agree more.
Richard, it's good to see you. He says sports around the pool would be just to cool you off. I love it. I love it. He also says A.J. Brown will have a better season individually, better than the Browns will altogether.
What if Deshaun Watson gets hit with that, you're suspended until you settle these civil cases? That could be all season. Well, they haven't even begun to make
he has $200 million to get that resolved.
Yeah, but only $1 million of it's on salary, so you can only fine me for that $1 million. They've been very careful the way they've crafted all of that. But let me say this. When it comes to the Browns, potentially if you've upset Baker Mayfield to the point where he's not going to play again, and I don't think he'll play again in Cleveland. They've just excused him from OTAs and everything else. I don't think they're going to bring him back into the locker room, Drew. I don't know that they'll be able to trade him, but I think it's going to be one of those situations where they're just going to cut him just to wash their hands and say, we're finally done with this, no matter what kind of haircut we have to take money-wise to get that done. Realistically, if you have Jacoby Brissett playing with this team, I know they brought in Amari Cooper, but the rest of their wide receiver core isn't very strong. Their offensive line still has some susceptibility. They've moved on from some guys, so they might not be quite as good running the ball. Defensively, their D-line isn't very good outside of, everybody knows, the other next game wrecker in Myles Garrett there. Everybody else, they brought Clowney back. That's good, but not.
You can't play Baker Mayfield and expect the team to believe what the coach and the head office is telling you, going, hey, this is our guy going into this season. It's going to be great. There's no way that you can believe that. I do want to get to another comment here. Frank says, does Philly have the best wide receiver duo in the NFL?
No, not best. And that's not a shot, not yet. But they have some of the most potential.
Maybe the best youngest duo.
And I think here's the thing that's most exciting about that. And you're right. If A.J. Brown, noted Tennessee wide receiver, who might be the best in franchise history like he was claiming on social media, here's the thing. He's now kind of like
I think Derek Mason might have something to say about that, but yeah.
He might. I know, and you can go back to all the Houston Oilers days, but that was a long time ago, Drew. Okay, recency biased, he's the best. But if you look at him and what he was able to do in Tennessee, a team that doesn't throw the football, it might be night and day now that he's out of that system, and you're with one of the other 30 teams that throw the ball more than the Titans do. So,
Philly.
And
Philly likes to run the ball.
The pedigree is there with Devontae Smith as well. So they have two of the best and brightest stars up and coming in the NFL. But right now, can I say they're better than Mike Evans and Chris Godwin? Can I say they're better than, this is going to sound strange, but Cooper Kupp and the receiver who used to be from Jacksonville, had a rough stint in Chicago. Allen Robinson. Thank you.
I was not listening to you.
Is he better than Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp? Those two guys, right now, pound for pound, I can't say yes. But the future's bright, and they have two of the best young receivers in football, and that's something that 2 or 3 years from now, you might be saying that, they're the best group in football.
Frank Sorrells, I hope I said your last name right. Man, don't worry about being late. We're glad you're here now. That's all that matters.
And like we said before, every comment helps us because Facebook is actually paying us for comments, likes, and shares now, at least for the next month. So anything you want to throw out there, you got some burning question on your chest that's eating you up, you want to tell me what your favorite color is, throw it in the comments. We're not going to mind.
We're going to get to it. Frank says, best time for the Steelers is to trade Mason to remember your face during the draft, priceless.
I think he was talking about A.J. Brown when I was... Dude, you're right. I mean, we should clip that. I thought it was fake when it came across the screen first. And they were like, oh, you get a first and a third round pick. Let me say this for the Eagles. If you got A.J. Brown with your first round pick, that player, I don't care that he's 25. If you got that guy coming off of your first round pick, you would say, we hit it out of the park. We got a top 5, top 7, top 8 wide receiver with that pick.
Wow, I must be drunk. I literally read both comments together. So I'm going to apologize for that. Richard said, the best time for the Steelers to trade Mason to Cleveland for Garrett. Heads up. So the Browns have a quarterback.
I think the best time to trade for Garrett would have been after he clubbed Mason Rudolph over the top of the head with his own helmet, right? Like, that was probably an emotional low point on Myles Garrett when he was getting that big suspension and everything. Don't worry, Cleveland fans don't care. They made fun of Mason Rudolph getting his skull caved in. So, whatever. I mean, if that doesn't do it, Drew, what does, right? Like, we don't care who you are anymore, what you do. As long as you can play football. I can't say that on the show. I was going to say something. I was going to take that to a dark place, but we'll skip it for now.
I love it. All right. Frank did say that he enjoyed watching your face about the A.J. Brown trade.
You got a good one. You got a good one. That's all I can say. You got a good one.
It was even better in person. That's all I can say. It was even better in person.
I disagree. I don't think it was very fun at all. I didn't have a good time.
Mitchell, good to see you. He says, what are the odds about Drew being the water boy for an NFL team? Very unlikely, because
I'm going to say 3.5%. Low, but not impossible.
It's even lower than that, because when I start watching...
Oh, you don't mean like Bobby Boucher. That's how I took it.
I'm talking about...
You'll be out there...
When I start watching football, these start going heavy. So literally what it'll be is on the sideline, you just see me like with like a 6-pack or 12-pack on my hand every now and then. They're like, Drew, get in there, we need water.
He feels no pain.
Who?
When you said water boy, I was thinking Bobby Boucher. And I was like, well, they did just lose Bobby Wagner. So maybe you put Drew out there, and I don't know. How do you feel about Gatorade?
Yeah, right. Gatorade. Ray says, can you all see Baker Mayfield in a Seattle highlighter green uniform?
Ray, do you want him in Seattle? And let me ask you this.
Yes.
What is the objective?
To win a Super Bowl.
Are you doing it with Baker Mayfield?
Maybe. If you fix that defense and that offensive line.
So Cleveland had a good defense. They had a running. I know he got hurt. I know he got hurt.
But
they have started to put it together, and there's still something wrong.
You also faced the best team in the NFL that year in the Kansas City Chiefs, like on a speed.
They were all right.
Yeah, okay. And literally just crushing everyone they can to go to the Super Bowl and win it. I mean, that was. If that was the second year that Kansas City was in the AFC Championship game and we played Cleveland that year for that game, Cleveland would have been in the Super Bowl. Cleveland would have been in that Super Bowl.
Mitchell says, I would be an offensive analyst if you were that's not fair. You can't say I'm an offensive analyst and Drew's the water boy. I would be left out is what I would be, sitting on the bench. I actually play center, guard, and tackle. I would sit in the center of the bench. I would guard the water, the cooler, and I would tackle anyone who would make a move on it. So I would be center guard and tackle.
Kent says, what does it pay for the water boy job? True.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I was going to say, you find your way in there, you're probably making 50, right? 50 grand?
Well, I'm not leaving my job to be a water boy then.
To be a water boy? Drew, you're working 17 weeks a year.
Hold on. There's got to be more.
25 at best?
There's got to be more.
Preseason?
No, there's got to be way more than that. I got to sit
You're
there.
off for 3.5 months. Like, Drew, we're talking right now. You're not even there.
No, you got to be in the OTAs. You got to be there. You got to get those guys water.
The water boy, squat the 650-pound rep off the squats.
Then I got to make sure the water's filtered all right. It's not just go show up to the game and you're good to go.
You buy a Pura filter, you're good to go.
Richard's got it. He says, Drew would be a beer vendor at Arrowhead. Get your PBR right here. PBR.
So I'm an offensive analyst and you're a PBR. That's not fair.
That's better. That makes more sense.
Yeah. I see. They said water boy. I was willing to give you that Bobby Boucher reference. I thought they were saying, could you be the water boy for somebody? I said, there's a small chance. It's never zero. It's never. I
don't know what you're trying. I don't know what you're trying to get at there, because I got on a normal sized bus. Okay.
Okay.
A normal sized bus.
All right. Fair enough. You didn't also play football in the Mud Bowl. Going back to the A.J. Brown trade really quick, the one thing I want to say is I think one of the most underrated moves in football is trading for a young player and giving your first-round pickup and saying, that was our first round this year. Because if you can get a guy that you know is a hit, that you know is successful at this level in football, it's beyond any sort of risk you take in the draft. Because we may love picks in the draft. You know, I love Tyler Linderbaum to the Ravens. I love George Karlaftis to the Chiefs. They haven't played it down at the next level against guys that make millions of dollars a year to make you unsuccessful. So as much as you want to look at any of these guys in the draft, I would trade my first-round pick in a heartbeat for a guy who's 25 years old, has done it for the past 3 years and done it at a high level, and is now moving to a more offensive, let's just say friendly offense for him and his skill set. So, yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat no matter what team was. I'm just surprised that nobody came in and said, I'll give you more than a first and a third for A.J. Brown that the Titans wound up getting from Philadelphia.
Yeah. No, I as much
Except for the Jets, who reportedly offered like 2 first-round picks, and the Titans were like, nah.
Could you imagine that, A.J. Brown and Corey Davis on the same team?
How do you think Corey Davis feels after A.J. Brown said, I'm the best receiver in Tennessee history? Like, bro, that's you he's calling out. He's saying you're trash.
He's not wrong.
Hey, no, he's not. But objectively, if I'm Corey Davis, I have to feel like I'm the best guy to ever do it.
How could he even remotely say he was good in Tennessee?
We had that year where he almost had 1,000 yards.
Almost had 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I know. Pretty big numbers.
Yes, I do. I know how to drink beer well, and if only I get paid for it, maybe Facebook can do this. Guys, remember, please like, comment, share during this show. We appreciate it immensely. We love talking sports with you guys. We love hanging out here. It's the reason why we do it year in and year out, and it would help us out a lot. Facebook is willing to pay us.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to empty Mark Zuckerberg's pockets and put it into our own. So whether you hate Zuckerberg, whether you like us, regardless, and every like, every share, every comment,
if we get paid, it actually helps you guys, because then we could get better equipment.
we can make the show worse.
How would it make it worse?
I don't know.
You get paid once and you just give up. You're like, I got paid.
I just turned into a diva like AJ Brown. I know Philly fans. I'm hoping that's not true. Ooh, and Ken wants to know, is there a draft for Waterboy jobs? No, usually you have to know somebody is the way that works out. Usually you're somebody's nephew.
Yeah.
When you get into that spot. Deshaun Watson, though, started as a ball boy, actually, for it wasn't Houston back then. I forget what team it was. He started in that scenario.
Oilers? That long ago? No, he didn't win that.
It wasn't that long ago, no. But still, another guy that got his foot in the door in one of those sort of situations.
There was that, man, I'm racking my brain here.
Look at him now.
I'm racking my brain here. There was a guy that was on the sideline. It was like either the Vikings or the Packers. He's like, hey, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to be an NFL quarterback like you. And now he's an NFL quarterback, and I cannot remember who that was.
Was it Kirk Cousins who did that?
Was it Kirk Cousins?
I think it was Kirk Cousins, yeah. I remember the story. I think it was Kirk Cousins who did that. Anyway, let's back on task here.
Hey, real quickly, Mitchell
back off a task here.
Yes, Mitchell made a really good point. It's not called water boy. It's hydration specialist is what I'd like to be called.
And Frank said Atlanta. I'm not sure the context, but yes, hydration specialist.
In Atlanta.
Put that on a resume.
In Atlanta.
Yeah.
I can do it. I don't want to live in Atlanta. Can I live outside of Atlanta?
You still don't want to deal with the traffic going to the city. Let's talk about Cooper Kupp, because we talked about Aaron Donald getting the money, and everyone, I don't think there's too many people out there saying he's not worth it. I don't think there's too many people saying, man, you can't pay that to a defensive tackle, even though historically you look at the position, you say defensive tackle is one of those positions you don't want to spend a lot of money on.
That's crazy. Who says that?
Everybody.
That is crazy.
Well, you don't want to until you have a special player. How about that?
Right. You think about like Reggie White.
Okay. All right. You're going to name like all these. You're going to say Chris Jones and all these other guys.
I didn't say Chris Jones. I said Reggie White.
Okay. And you're right. When you have like a special
if you're going to ask me
tackle,
who Aaron Donald reminds me of and what kind of like destruction he creates on an offensive side of the ball, it's Reggie White style.
You're kind of like jumping the shark here. That was my point. Like most D tackles are not worth this kind of money, right? It's kind of like an offensive guard.
Get your point out, Jake. You're taking forever here.
When you have an offensive guard like Quentin Nelson, you pay him whatever he wants because he's special. He's not even an offensive guard at that point. He's a transcendent talent that takes the position and elevates it. You get the same thing at defensive tackle. Are you getting the same thing at wide receiver with Cooper Kupp? Because, yes, he had a record-setting year this year, and as much as I want to say that this is Cooper Kupp, how much of it is just related to the fact that they just upgraded from Jared Goff at quarterback?
No.
How much of it is Sean McVay? How much of it's Cooper Kupp?
It's not that they Yes, he performed better because of Stafford being there over Goff. But you're acting like Cooper Kupp wasn't one of the best wide receivers in a Rams organization beforehand.
Couple comments here really quick. Frank said Watson worked for Atlanta when I was talking about him being the ball boy. Thank you so much. And that was the point that I remembered half of the story because I'm good at my job. I remembered half the story because Atlanta said, we can land him. He was a ball boy here. Remember they made that push and then Matt Ryan was like, guys, trade me?
Richard, I appreciate that. If only I could get some Paps, swag.
We don't want the swag. We want the cash. You can buy. You know how much Pabst swag you can buy with cash?
When I say swag, I mean just beer. Hand me beer, and then just pay for our beer intake.
Fair enough. But let me say this about Cooper Kupp. Yeah, back the semi up, boys. When it comes to Cooper Kupp, I think you're having a little bit harder of a time justifying it. It's not hard because you saw how good he is. But when it comes to Aaron Donald versus Cooper Kupp, the position is more valuable. You see a lot higher paid wide receivers than you do defensive tackles. True. But
no.
I think on the reverse, let me just say this. When it comes to what made Cooper Kupp, brought him to this level, but like the best receiver in football, like arguably not only the Super Bowl, but the actual MVP of the season. Like he was in that conversation. It wasn't until Matt Stafford got there. He's playing in one of the best, if not the most creative offense in football with Sean McVay. There are some other external elements as opposed to Aaron Donald. You could take Aaron Donald and put him on 32 teams, he'd still be a game wrecker. I don't say that about many players.
Just because you're sitting there talking about it being the best offensive scheme doesn't mean that every player works out there. Look at Robert Woods. They let him go.
He worked out. It's just they couldn't afford him.
Odell Beckham Jr. was there. He
worked out. He was good when he was there. Jared Goff is the only guy I can point to on offense to say he didn't work out.
There's one player that stayed there, stayed healthy, stayed in every game without causing problems, being quiet, being part of that organization, and that is Cooper Kupp. Okay. He has earned this money. So everything that you're about to say, and I know you like Cooper Kupp. I'm not saying you don't like him. Everything you're about to say, though, is wrong because he has earned this money. This actually to me is like one of the wholesome kind of NFL stories to me. Not because he's grown up hard and he made his way into the NFL and he's making a lot of money. This is a guy that has seriously has worked his tail off in an organization. Yeah, it's worked out well for him because the team's done well, but he's kept quiet, and then he got an opportunity to have a great quarterback behind him, and he flourishes. I mean, this is what everyone wants.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you pay the man. And guess what? He's still young enough to pay him. It's only a 3-year extension.
Right.
It's not like they're paying him 6 years, $80 million at the age of 30.
He's not Von Miller. He's 33 and getting a...
I was actually going to bring up Devontae Adams out in Las Vegas.
Or Vegas, yeah, wherever they're at now. Somewhere out west.
Where they're paying a 32-year-old player, still a great player, a long contract. This makes sense. You pay the guy that's been there and has put his work in. And I liked... Maybe fantasy football has ruined a lot for a lot of true NFL fans, but Cooper Kupp was one of the highest drafted wide receivers in the last couple of years in drafts.
Well, he was in fantasy, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Not bad for a third-round pick, though, right?
No, not bad at all.
And this is exactly why you go into every offseason and I tell you who's going to be good and who's going to be bad, and then we don't actually know. I mean, Cooper Kupp came out of nowhere and is now the best, if not one of the best wide receivers in football. I think situation is incredibly important when we talk about this, but I think there's even more to it than that. When you're talking about this money, I agree he's earned it. I agree it's in that, but I think there is some other things that have kind of gotten Cooper Kupp to that level. I think Aaron Donald, at any level, Drew, I would say this. I don't say this about many players. Most of the time, I've said this about Patrick Mahomes. I said if he was a Detroit Lion, I don't think he'd be a good quarterback. I think we'd be talking about he takes too many risks, and he's throwing the ball to guys who shouldn't be out there, and we'd be talking about all the mistakes he makes.
No, it's beer. For a minute, I thought you were drinking tequila or whiskey.
I think Aaron Donald could be on any team in football, and he would still be almost as devastating as he is in L.A. I don't think it's scheme. I think he is like scheme agnostic, where it does not matter who's calling anything. Literally, go get him, Aaron, and he can go and do that.
I don't know how you can't say that with Cooper Kupp, though. You're going to sit there and tell me that Sean McVay has played the exact same offense year in and year out when he's this offensive guru?
No, but I think
Andy Reid doesn't do that, and you can literally call Andy Reid.
Well, it doesn't have to be the same offense, but he's molded and changed the offense to fit him in the perfect spot.
Which means that if you go anywhere, you should be able to play that position, right?
No.
What? Okay.
No, because you go to Jacksonville, and what would Cooper Kupp be right now? He'd be good. He'd be solid.
That's different.
He'd be all right. No, why? Because Jacksonville isn't an NFL team?
Exactly. They're a college team. I love it. Richard says, do you know how much beer you can buy with beer? A lot is the answer. A lot.
Absolutely. All right.
Guys, remember, like, share, comment, please. We're on a 30-day push on Facebook. They are, I don't know.
They're paying us. We don't know how much.
Yeah. I don't know really how to say it. It's just like, comment, share, push us on Facebook, please, guys.
Absolutely. We appreciate everything that you guys do to make this show successful, because without you, it wouldn't exist. You are the reason we do it, and we've said that for years now. And also, we have something else in the works. Is it too early to tease this? We're going to be taking some calls from you guys, sort of, going forward. We've talked about this for a little while.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about it.
We're going to find a way, and not even find a way, to get questions from you guys in voice mode, or in voice mode.
It's set up, right?
Yeah, no, it's totally ready to go. Let's do it right now. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not ready. We're working on it.
Hold on, they can't leave a message right now?
They can, actually. They can.
Then I'm going to write this number down so I can also
I was going to have like
say it.
I was going to have like a button we could press. So if you have a question, the idea comes from...
I could also comment it.
Okay, the idea comes from a point where we want to engage with our community. We want to hear from you guys, and we want you to be more part of the show every time than, as much as part of the show as we can. So the way we are going to do that is we're going to set up a phone number that we have already, where you guys are going to be able to call and leave your questions for us to play live on the show, where we can react to them. Now, is everybody going to get in there? Depends how many people call.
Yeah, absolutely, Ken. You can get this number out to everybody. So what's going to be nice about it is you guys leave a message, and your luscious, sexy voice gets thrown onto our show, and we get an opportunity to answer it. And I just commented, maybe, there my phone went, 505-785-7282, which is SATB. TB.
Yeah.
I knew what our name is. What is it? Guys, please. Go for it. Call, leave messages. We're going to love it.
Absolutely. Leave us any question you want under the sun regarding to sports. Like I said, can't promise it goes to the air.
Frank says, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Long-time, first-time. That's right.
I love it.
It won't be live, but it will be the opportunity for you to just get whatever burning question you have off of your chest. We're going to take those calls, and we were going to try to involve you.
If this works out as good as it does. Mm-hmm. We haven't talked about this. I'm bringing it up right now. Maybe that becomes this live show, where we literally take everyone's question and say, all right, question 1, boop, and then we talk about it. Question 2, boop, and we talk about it.
At some level, we want to have like live calls, like a radio show would, but the problem is, and this is a little peek behind the curtain here, I can't stop you from saying anything. It's the internet.
Yeah, it's bad.
And let's just say you could say some things, and I know you would never do this, but people could say some things that might get us not so on the internet for so long if they wound up making it to live air that we had no control over. So this is the compromise for now.
Yeah.
We're going to try to keep working on it, and eventually we want to take like live calls where we actually talk to people.
But then we're talking about being on delay, and there's already delay now with the comments. It's tough.
Right, exactly. So if you're interested and you have anything you want to talk about, leave us that voicemail, guys.
Yes.
I don't even know how big the voicemail box is.
But
we're going to
overload it. Let's do it. Richard says, I love this. He says, long time call, first time listener.
Yeah.
Richard, we know that's a lie.
Absolutely we do. Okay, so Cooper Kupp is worth it. Aaron Donald is worth it. We've kind of covered that. We've crushed that.
Is Deshaun Watson?
Well, I was going to talk about the cap, but
we've already
does anyone know
we've
that?
already talked about him, so I just didn't know if you wanted to
weigh in. Is he worth it? No one's going to know that for like 5 years from now. This is a retrospective question. You can't ask me that right
now. Deshaun Watson 2 or 3 years ago with the last we saw no law problems in your face. Yes, 100%.
The last year, yes. The last year we saw Deshaun Watson. If you gave up 3 first-round picks to bring him in, yes, I would say it's worth it. The problem is now not only are you kind of hurting your brand by bringing in a quarterback with less than a spotless record when in terms of everything. Quarterback's different than other positions. Ray Rice knocks his wife out in an elevator, and everybody's like, whatever, we'll give him another shot. We'll take a look, like down the road. It's fine. Quarterback is supposed to speak for your team. And I know everyone's going to say, Big Ben. You remember what Big Ben did? That was a little more. It was one
time
twice.
incident.
Twice. Happened twice.
Yeah,
not in the same time, but it did.
No, it was one time and one false one.
We don't know that.
Kidding.
We don't know that.
I'm joking. I'm totally joking. Was it really 2?
Yeah.
God, he should have been kicked out of the league.
All I'm saying is you had 2, and everybody, let's just say, changed Roethlisberger to a different name that rhymes with Rothless.
Are you not allowed to say that word no more?
We're a family-friendly show. We don't talk about that stuff.
You cuss all the time on this show. Why can't
but
I?
I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be better. The moral of the story here is, Drew, this guy is supposed to set the tone for your franchise, right? When it comes to any quarterback, he's supposed to set the tone for your franchise. If you say, we don't care about discipline, we don't care about who you are or what you do off the field, we don't care about who you hurt, any of the rest of it, all we care about is winning on the field, you're kind of setting that same precedent on the field, which, let's not forget, this is the same team that didn't give Greg Williams the head coaching job because it was bad for the optics, right? Like, he put a bounty on going and hurting guys on the field, and they said, that's too spicy for us.
Yeah, because someone finally ratted on him. That's been going on for generations. Richard says the NFL
Not like that. Come on. Don't steer me off this path right now. Did you see what they did to Brett Favre in the playoffs? That was not... Okay, please.
Are you ready?
You said...
Are you ready to listen to the truth of the NFL?
Sure.
There was multiple players that came out and says this is a normal thing that happens in a lot of organizations on the defensive side of the ball. Coaches will give bonuses to players that take out other players.
Did they name names? They show their bank records saying, here's where they gave me the bonus?
No, because this is the only one they gave a crap about.
I think there's a little bit of... I don't want to talk about recency bias, but I think you just forget how rough it was with the Saints because, man, they weren't just out there trying to hurt somebody. They were trying to kill Brett Favre.
Is it because your boy Brett Favre got hurt?
No, I'm just saying, like, you don't remember what that season was like? Like, the Saints were out there like 5 seconds after the play is over just blowing up the quarterback.
It happened a lot more than you know.
I agree. It happened. I'm not like sitting here eyes wide shut kind of, it never happened.
I kind of feel like you
I'm not a pearl clutcher either saying, oh, I can't believe they would do something so terrible. No. Realistically, though, they took it too far, right? Like, there's an envelope, and they didn't just push it like down the table, Drew. They pushed it over the side.
Let me get to Richard's comment here. He says the NFL should give Deshaun Watson a year suspension and get over with it. Let him take care of the lawsuits and get ahead of all of it. Here's the issue, Richard. Even if they gave him a 1 year suspension, their NFL team, the Cleveland Browns, had give him a giant contract. So even if they gave him a 1 year suspension and it took him 1 year to get it resolved, he could spend 10 years in prison for this.
They actually cleared him on the criminal cases. So he won't go to jail.
No, there's still more coming, man.
Well, another one came out that joined the civil suit, which, again, somehow this became law around the bar, but let's talk about that. There are two types of court. There's civil and criminal court. Criminal court is where you go to jail because you did something wrong. Civil court is, hey, you screwed me over, you owe me money.
So when you cleared
the Texas grand jury said that there's not enough evidence to continue with criminal charges in Texas. Is there some bias there because it was right before he was traded? Potentially, yes. I mean, we can't pretend this doesn't exist, right? It helps the Houston Texans as an organization to trade him.
That does not stop the NFL from going, okay, let's suspend him now.
Right. But because they have, the grand jury in Texas has said that we are not going forward with these charges because we don't feel like there's enough evidence, regardless of what you think about the legal system, whether it's perfect, whether it's totally imperfect, they're not going forward with it. So he won't spend a day in jail at this point. He may shell out $1 billion worth of money.
I think you should. That's not completely true. And the reason I say that is when they start opening up these court cases and you start pushing it out and more evidence comes available, things could change.
It could. And there's always a potential they could refile the criminal suit and everything else. But let me just say, it's a heavy blow to that.
It is.
To say not only did you not do it, they said there's not enough evidence to even look into it to see if you did it.
Right. So that is the reason, in my opinion, that is the reason why NFL is holding off on any kind of suspension.
Right. I agree. I think they want to see what happens with the civil case and everything else. I think they're going to hold off, even though supposedly a couple weeks ago they said by the end of this week we're going to have something. And then the 24th woman came out and said, oh, yeah, by the way, he did something to me too. It could be somebody different that comes out and says he did something. You could potentially file criminal charges, everything else. It is a really big blow when you had this many women come forward and say that he did something for the grand jury to say we're not even going to say this can go to trial. That is a very big blow to the argument, just from a legal standpoint. Now, the counter to that is that you could say that there's all kind of external factors that have a play in it. And even a lot of times when it comes to these sort of acts, and again, we're going to keep this as family friendly as we can because that's what we're trying to do. But when it comes to these kind of acts, a lot of it comes down to he said, she said. In criminal court, like I said, this is law around the bar. Your standard of proof, what you have to do is you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, which means there is no way the average person could say reasonably there is a chance he didn't do it. You have to be 100% sure. Yeah. Civil court comes down to what becomes a preponderance of evidence, which means I have to believe you more than I believe them.
Right.
So it's much easier to get that civil sort of suit in your favor than it is in a criminal suit.
Richard says 26 lawsuits in 2 weeks of for each trial. That's way too many to have him play and fight each one. I believe that he might be able, depending on the judge, to not have to be available every time they go to court.
Not to mention, I believe it's a class action suit, which means you're taking 23 of those women and they're using the same lawyer and saying it's much easier for all of us to come together and say, hey, listen, he did something wrong to us, than it is for all of them to go out and have to hire their own lawyer and everything else.
Right.
It also makes it easier on the court system because they don't have to go through 26 court cases separately, correct, everything else. So I believe the first 23 are all part of a class action suit, but don't quote me on that because that is something I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, and don't quote me on that either because I just remember hearing a lot of other famous names and they're like, well, they're not even in court, but we're still going forward with this court case. I believe there's definitely ways that they can get around from him being there.
Okay, law around the bar is over. Thank you guys for coming. What we are going to talk about now
we're going to be
is
law
sports around the bar.
Oh, we're dropped the law. Okay.
Can we talk about? Yeah, we're removing the bar. We're going to keep the law. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson in 2022 from a football perspective.
Yes.
Let's throw everything because we don't know. We're going to reserve judgment. That's not our job. It's not, in my opinion, I've said this forever, it's not the NFL's job to play judge, jury, and executioner in these sort of matters. I think they should react to what the law finds. But we know.
Ask Roger Goodell that.
Well, he obviously doesn't share the same opinion as me, Drew. He feels he should be judge, jury, executioner, and everything else under the sun.
Actually, Frank says Goodell isn't dealing out the punishment. Whoever is investigating for the NFL is.
Well, no, Goodell still settles on it, but they use NFL and get investigators, and they might make a recommendation to it. But one of the big problems with this CBA. And we're digging into the weeds here. We're back to law around the bar.
We're back to it.
Contract discussion. But one of the big hang-ups for the CBA when it came around a couple of years ago was the players, and the players' union said, we don't feel like one person should have this power. We don't feel like one person should make the decision on how long each guy should be sort of disciplined. They wound up conceding that point, where Roger Goodell is still basically king, and he says, I feel like you're guilty, I feel like you're innocent.
Elected king.
By the owners, but not by everyone else.
He's still elected.
The players aren't, though. And that was the whole kind of contention. Is the players said, we agree that there's times where discipline is needed, but we don't feel like one guy should decide on a whim where a guy winds up being suspended. They wound up conceding that point and signed the money. It turns out money makes a lot of these problems go away. So they conceded that point. They said, let's just sign the deal. Everybody will get a raise.
Is that my problem?
But the moral of the story is Goodell still has all the power. So everyone's saying, why is Goodell sitting back and waiting? I think Goodell's waiting to see what the court case actually brings up because I think the NFL is taking a bit more of a backseat than it did before in terms of its own investigating and saying, what is the legal system going to do? And then we'll respond accordingly.
I love it. Sports, law, life around the barn. That's why we drink beer at this bar. Better bar than Cheers.
That's right. Home decor is our next big topic. We're going to get into that next week, so I hope you guys can join us for all of that. But at the very least, Deshaun Watson, how much is he going to play this year, Drew?
He's going to miss games. He's not going to play all 17. He's definitely going to miss games. Because if they were going to let him play, I think that maybe a statement would have already been put out. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean,
they did say it was going to be wrapped up, and then now all of a sudden we're back exactly where we were, where there's just radio silence.
I think the NFL would have been like, he's going to play. And then you would have seen the Browns do something, with Baker Mayfield. You're not going to let that contract just sit there with Baker Mayfield. They allowed him to, to still get paid and still be in the Browns contract. If the NFL says, hey, Deshaun Watson, we're going to let you play, and we're going to let you figure out your legal stuff, and if it becomes a criminal issue, we'll suspend you or whatever, Baker Mayfield will be gone.
Mitchell says, can we talk about Lowe's versus Home Depot? That's actually next week, too, home decor. Karen says he should not play at all. Talking about Deshaun Watson.
I can throw my pen. Do you want to see that again? I can't do it. Arthur Blank owns Home Depot. So I guess you want to support the Atlanta Falcons. Buy your stuff.
It always comes back to Atlanta. Let me just say this about Deshaun Watson. I think it's very likely we're going to see somewhere around 6 to 8 games. If you remember when Roethlisberger went through his trouble, it was 6 weeks. Again, kind of a he said, she said scenario where Roethlisberger said he didn't do anything wrong. Obviously, the woman disagreed, and none of us were in the room because typically when those kind of acts are going on, there's not too many other people, hopefully, in the room with them.
I mean, usually when I get a massage, I bring my whole family.
Oh, I'm not talking about massages here, Drew. We're going to the next. I was talking about Roethlisberger on that point. But same thing with Deshaun Watson.
Oh,
there's probably not too many other people in there with him.
Well, I usually grab my posse, and we all go to the bathroom together.
Not just a woman thing, apparently.
And my posse's just me.
Richard's phone's drunk, too. He's throwing everything under the sun. But we got what you meant. We were with you in spirit. When it comes to Deshaun Watson,
Can you read what he wrote, though?
He says, if Sports Around the Bar was from IKEA, and then the rest of it, I have no idea.
No, come on, do it. Try it.
Sports Evangorada
Boranitas.
Yeah. It sounds like something I buy from IKEA.
It turned a little Spanish at the end there.
Karen also says it's 26 women. And she is right. This isn't a case of Roethlisberger where it was 2 women at different times who said he did something wrong to me. It's 26 all together saying, hey, listen, over the past couple of years, he did something.
We're making light of it. And we probably shouldn't because it is 26 women if something actually happened to them.
Right.
By all means, this guy should be punished for it.
Right.
But
I will say this in the NFL's defense. It isn't their job, right?
No.
They're not judge, jury, and executioner. This should be the legal system. Like, the question I think we should all be asking right now is why did a Texas grand jury say this shouldn't even go to court? Not only that he's innocent, but that he shouldn't even be looked at criminally for what he's done. Why did that happen? And I think this is what always happens. The same thing happened in Atlantic City when Ray Rice knocked his wife out on camera and we all watched it. They said, oh, there's not enough here to press charges. What are you talking about? I watched it. You watched it. We all saw it on camera. What do you mean there's not even enough evidence to go to court? We watched it. I saw it happen.
You said it. Money fixes everything. Exactly.
And this isn't law around the bar anymore. We canceled that.
How much do you think the Houston Texans paid to get no charges pressed before they traded him?
Oh, you're asking a dangerous question.
I guarantee you it's in the millions. I guarantee you it is. And then when it kept coming out, more charges, more people, more women said that he did something. Then it was like, no, we got to get rid of this. Because when you're a billionaire and you own an NFL team, you're gonna defend the face of your franchise. And then when it becomes too much, you're gonna throw millions at him.
Do you remember when the opposite was accused, though? Do you remember like when this happened, everyone said the Texans are paying these women to say that Deshaun Watson did bad things to them so he can't leave.
That's fake news. That's fake news.
No, I know.
It's Karen says it's because they're paid off. Think about Brett Favre. And a Jets organization in New York sent a inappropriate text message picture of his family jewels to a female reporter.
Right. Well, the problem is he did it to a famous person. If you do it to somebody who's not famous, you get away with that every day.
How much money do you think that they paid to make that kind of disappear?
Oh, there was a civil agreement, but here's the difference between these women. This has been going on this long, and there has not been that settlement, where normally what happens in these situations, and what happened with Roethlisberger, if I remember right, was he said, okay, listen, you feel like I did something wrong, I feel like I didn't, let me give you some money and let's just pretend it never happened. True. That's almost always what happens. The difference between these women here is they haven't said, I'll take any kind of money. And I think that's why what might suggest that there probably is something here more to sort of these claims is they haven't just said, give me the quick payday and I'll go away. And usually whether somebody's telling the truth or lying, when that money hits the table, a lot of the time, like you said, money makes a lot of these problems go away. And they haven't done that. They've stuck to their guns and said, no, he did something wrong, and I'm not going to let him off the hook. So I do think this is more serious than what we've seen in the past.
Frank says the Texans are now part of the civil lawsuit.
They are. They've been named in the civil lawsuit as well, saying that they've tried to cover up some of the information and everything else. Does that go anywhere?
Wow.
No, but when you're...
I'm just saying. I called that, didn't even know it.
Back to law around the bar. If I was the prosecuting attorney, I would name everybody under the sun in this thing because I would want them to feel like they need to stroke me a check. in what way could Houston be responsible for what Deshaun Watson as an individual does?
Gave him $1 million.
Unless they were like bribing these women to stay quiet, and you could prove that,
Again, they would, because at that point in
but
time,
only if they could get away with it, right?
Yeah. What about what's his name?
Robert Kraft?
Yeah.
You going with?
Yes.
Did he bribe those women? I don't think he did.
Are you kidding me?
He paid them, but
are you kidding me?
I mean, I'm sure he probably did. All right. Behind the scenes. But we never had proof of Robert Kraft paying those women.
Man.
Law around the bar. Hat off again. Let's go back to sports around the bar. Can I don't want to divert here too much here.
Yeah.
I know we've been on a diversion, but let's get back to the main path here. How much time... You're Roger Goodell right now. You're sitting in the big chair. Mm-hmm. They're paying you $52 million a year to be the commissioner of a sports league. Mm-hmm. Drew, they bring this to you. They lay it on the table. They say, we got to satisfy everybody. How long is this suspended? I
look at the Cleveland Browns organization and the fan base in Cleveland, and I'd say that's probably a huge moneymaker for us. I would allow him to play if I was Roger Goodell. If I was a normal human being and cared about individual freedoms and rights, he would not play this year at all.
I'm going to even take it a step further. I want to hit a couple of these good comments we've had here real quick, and then I'm going to go back to my point. Richard said that the Texans gave the hotel rooms. Again, you got to kind of prove intent, which unless you can go out there and prove that the Texans knew some nefarious deed was going on, and then we're still sort of becoming accessories to the situation, very difficult to prove, because they could just say, well, yeah, our quarterback wanted these sort of things, and he enjoys his massages, and we gave him a hotel room. What's wrong with that? Anyone can do that. That's again, it's really hard to prove that the Texans knew something wrong was going on and said, we're still doing this anyway.
Just to answer Richard real quick, he said, how long until one of us dance in the bar? We are definitely not drinking enough. When did you dance in this bar?
This one? No. But a bar? Yeah. College was a hard time for me.
You got to make your money somewhere. That's the reason why Coyote Ugly's no longer around, because of you.
Frank also goes on to say Watson gave paperwork for some of these women to sign to keep quiet. Yes, but that's 100% going to happen with any settlement. You always sign what's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which says, I'm going to give you all this money, but you can't come out here and just trash me in the media after I give you money for doing this wrong. You have to not talk about it from there on.
Tiger Woods' little
kind of boilerplate. Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
Everybody who ever gets sued ever says, I'll give you the money, but you're signing an NDA.
Yep.
That's kind of boilerplate. And Karen goes on to say that Deshaun Watson is a jerk. He is. But so is Myles Garrett. Hey, I know, Karen, I know you're a Browns fan. I know you're a big supporter of the team, but the time for morals is past when one of your guys is unprompted, not only breaking Trevor Siemian's ankle on a late hit in Week 5, I don't forget, but taking a helmet off of a guy's head and then hitting him over his own head with that helmet. The Browns have already kind of made it very clear that this is how the organization runs. We don't care who you are, what you do. As long as you can win us football games, you could go out there and blow up an orphanage, and we'd probably have you out there.
Man, we're trying to... Cleveland fans, I'm so sorry for Jake's comments.
No, I'm not. Here's the thing. I know there are good Cleveland fans. I know tons of good Cleveland fans. But the fact that they were coming out and like making piñatas of Mason Rudolph, I get you don't like the Steelers.
Funny.
I get it. There's a point in time where you're like, maybe we're the asshole here, and I know this is a sports show, but a family-friendly show, but I don't care. I'm going to lay it out. At some point, you got to look at it and be like, maybe we were in the wrong a little bit.
You dropped the word. No. It's okay for a fan base to attack another player when it's joking around about building a piñata. It's okay for that, because it just...
With that? You're okay
with that?
Yes. You're okay with that?
Yes.
My player just got suspended for the rest of the season because he hit
Albert Hainsworth stomped on some dude's head with his
Did the Titans laugh about that? They were like, no, maybe we were in the wrong
They're
here.
like,
we kind of screwed up.
We'll just keep paying him, and then we're like, our bad.
Contractually, you have to keep paying him. And he got suspended, everything else. You know what the crazy thing about that? Him and Andre Guerrero are still friends today, even though he stomped on his unhelmeted
head. You could release him.
You could. You're not going to. Same deal. There comes a point in time where these teams are being paid to win the game.
Frank Sorrell says, at least Jake isn't trashing the Bears. Not yet.
That's not true. I want... Wait till you see my meme collection.
It's actually really funny because if Frank, and you know this, if anyone actually trashes the Bears, it's me. It's the first time in like 3 years that Jake's like, the Bears are going to be trashed. And I'm like, finally, you admit it?
That's not true.
Finally?
That is not true. Hold on. Back up.
All right. Let's go. Let's go there. What do you got?
I was the guy who said Mitch Trubisky ain't it. If you remember.
But then you sat there and told me that he's going to be okay.
When he was winning 10 or 12 or 11 games, whatever it was, when he was taking him to the Super Bowl, when he was taking him to the playoffs with Matt Nagy, I was the guy who said, Mitch Trubisky ain't all that. Like, you look at the throws, there's a lot of mistakes in here, and the defense is kind of like covering up those mistakes because they're like one of the best we've seen in like the decade. And then that kind of like took like half a step back, and all of a sudden things kind of spiraled out of control. I have one thing we've always promised at Sports Around the Bar is that no matter how bad, we're going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, honesty, for sure.
And I feel like bad things are going to happen for the Bears, Frank. We don't have to bring it up all the time.
Frank says, yeah, but it cuts deep.
I know. But let me tell you this. It's better than the guy who tells you, we're going to the playoffs this year, bro. And then you win 4 games, and they're like, well, I knew it all along. This is why we started the show. If you remember all the way back, when we started the show, we said there's too much sports talk that just throws whatever they say out of the window when it's convenient for them.
Yeah. Man, you brought that out.
I know.
You brought that out.
We're drilling down.
That was the whole reason we started this whole thing.
I know. That's exactly my point. There were supposed to be 3 or 4 other guys here on the show with us. They wound up not being able to hang. So
all of them actually just ended up just not being good.
So you got the dream team. But the moral of the story is
we always knew what the glue was.
No matter
sticking pieces to it and see if it stuck.
I know I take swipes at Indy. I know I take swipes at Jacksonville. I know I take swipes at the Titans even. And Drew does the same. We all take swipes at guys sometimes. But no matter what happens, we try to tell the truth as purely as we see it. And when we're wrong, when we're like, man, that didn't work out, like me and Philly last year. I thought Philly was going to win 5 games. They made the playoffs. We say, hey, listen, I was off. That was me, right? Like they were better than I thought they were.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not trashing the Bears right now, but we try to shoot as straight as humanly possible. And Richard says I am a Titans fan, but dude, I will tell you how bad the Titans are when they're messing up. You saw my face when they traded AJ Brown, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that was a good trade. I'm not going to tell you John Robinson won that trade.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. We speak the truth.
Guys, another thing we got going on for us because of Facebook reaching out to us, giving us the opportunity to earn some money. We're also putting out videos for each team, anywhere from 3 minutes to 12 minutes because we don't know how to keep our yaps shut. You'll be seeing videos drop randomly. Guys, remember to like and share those. We're going to try to...
Everything you do helps us.
We're going to try to post them on some other fan bases page. If you guys are part of, like, Frank, when we do the Bears, put it on the Bears page, man. Tell them to come check us out. It help us grow. We obviously appreciate all you guys. If I can just say, hey, I'm sorry for the hiatus that we took during COVID and all that stuff, but we're so excited to be back. We're glad to be back. We love talking sports with you guys, and I know we really stick NFL heavy, and we probably always will, but always feel free to talk to us about anything else.
Absolutely. We're going to do the phone number one more time before we finish, but really quick, I do kind of want to circle back to my Deshaun Watson take. If I was Roger Goodell, right, the crown's on my head, I'm making $52 million. Think about that. $52 million to decide life and death for everybody who has any sort of run-in with the law or anything like that. What I would do, I'd do the whole swivel thing like a supervillain where I turn around and I talk to Deshaun Watson. I bring my hands up like this. I don't have the space to do it right now, or I would do it for you. And I would say, listen, Deshaun, until you settle these civil lawsuits, we're going to keep you in limbo, and you're going to be suspended until that point. And then once they're settled, that's when I'm going to hit it, because I'm not a huge fan of you manipulating your contract and only making it where I can fine you for that $1 million salary you have this season. I saw you with that huge signing bonus, whatever it was, $60 million. I see you with that huge guaranteed contract you have. And I see that huge salary where you go from making $1 million in the first year to, was it 48, Drew? In year 2? Guess what? If this carries into year 2, you're going to be on the bench until year 2, and then I'm going to be taking some of that money away from you. I would be a little vindictive of it. I have been like incredibly critical of Roger Goodell kind of swinging that ban hammer around one-handed where it's just him who makes all the decisions. But if you're going to do it, at least be consistent and come down hard on everybody. And that's what I think he should do here.
Guys, I'm going to put the number out one more time so you guys can see it. It's 505-785-7282. Guys, call us. Leave a question. Please try to keep it appropriate.
Same deal. Everything you say is probably going to wind up in the air.
If you don't leave it appropriate, we will just trash it. So please don't trash. It
probably won't play. And no, here's the thing: trash talk all you want. Be negative. Be everything
garbage.
You want. Just remember, everything you say is going to wind up on the internet at one point. And if it has nothing to do with sports, it's probably not going to see the air.
Right.
So
if it has cuss words in it, we cannot play it.
I can bleep it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, moral of the story is, guys, I think that's about it for this show. It's been a great time. I know the offseason is dragging on, and we went from, like, the wildest offseason to the quietest offseason.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, overnight, we went from everything happening all at once to now everybody's settling down and it's business as usual. And even it feels like the access media is like, we have nothing to talk about.
Richard says, we got to get you paid between Facebook, Fox, or ESPN for Sports Around the Bar. We can only wish. And the best time to call, so it's going to put you into a voicemail. So you just leave a message.
Right. You're going to get a voicemail from either me or Drew or maybe both of us because we're going to record those actually right after this. And you're going to leave a message on that as a voicemail, and then we're going to take your question and we're going to play it live on the show for everybody, and we're going to react to it live to the show on everybody.
I just like to know when Karen is going to say, great point, Andrew. Just waiting.
It's not going to happen. I didn't hear Ken complimenting me either. So
he compliments you all the time. No, he doesn't. I lied.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. It's been a blast. We have some special thanks here. I want to get through those here because you are the reason we do what we do. It wouldn't be any fun without you.
We got bored talking to ourselves.
That's why we started the show. Not just because...
Just not to ourselves, but...
Not just because we were watching everybody on all kinds of social media and everything else say, hey, listen, I told you the Bears were going to be good when they told me specifically the Bears were going to be bad. So
I always told you the Bears were going to be bad.
Yeah, every year, pretty much.
And I nailed it every year. Guys, thank you again for the comments. Frank, James, Ken, Richard, Frank, Ray, Mitchell, Karen, you guys are the best. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We will be back next Tuesday, and also intermittently, while not live, it may appear as a live video because Facebook likes those. But we will be back to talk about everything going on in the NFL, as well as talking about your team's offseason in some of those pre-recorded videos, guys. Yes. Every little bit you can do in this next 30-day stretch helps us immensely. Please. And tells Facebook that we don't suck, because I think for the first time in 4 years, they're trying to figure out if we suck or not.
Is that it?
I think so.
You can pay me to find out that.
Anyway, guys, it's been a blast. We hope to catch you next Tuesday, and we hope to see you in between there as well on all the rest of our content. So, for Sports Around the Bar, I'm Jake. This is Drew. See you next week.
See you.